Hello and welcome to Ecocentric. I'm your host, Jake Slesky. We've got a lot of environmental news to cover this week, and if you're watching this video for a specific story, you can check the description for a timestamp. Let's get started. First up, fossil fuel subsidies continue to resist reform as other sectors adapt to climate change. Despite the growth of alternative energy and the common sentiment that fossil fuel subsidies should be scaled back, more money is pouring into the industry than ever before. Tax dollars continue to bolster its performance in countries like the US and UK, and regulations have done little to limit the growth and emissions of the multinational corporations receiving this money. Economists have become concerned with the degree of support governments give to an industry with a clear expiration date and entities like OPEC attached, while putting comparatively little towards alternative energy that can make short work of carbon emissions and reliance on the Middle East. Investments in alternative energy actually dropped 2% in 2018, but fossil fuel investments have been consistently on the rise for years. Next up, some disappointing news from Australia. Australia's first climate change election has yielded unexpected and disappointing results for activists. Climate change was a defining issue in Australia's federal election, but the results certainly don't show it. Aside from isolated victories against long-serving Conservative MPs like Tony Abbott, left-leaning candidates suffered as incumbent PM Scott Morrison's Conservative coalition dominated the election. Australia is facing some of the most immediate and devastating consequences of climate change, including a crisis of biodiversity, the impending extinction of species like the koala and Tasmanian devil, extreme weather, and the rapid destruction of the Great Barrier Reef, one of the oldest and most diverse ocean ecosystems on Earth. Despite their intimate connection to this crisis, the majority of voters ultimately elected to maintain Australia's relative inaction in domestic and international climate efforts. Climate change will remain a polarizing issue in Australian politics as outrage among activists and left-leaning voters soars, but the present government is unlikely to even consider arguments from the opposition. Activists and concerned citizens are opting not to have children in a new form of climate strike. With birth rates already declining in more affluent nations, women are more often opting not to have children, citing climate change as a major concern. Some women have organized to take this action with the intent of demonstrating, but more people involved in this strike have simply decided that they cannot guarantee the welfare of children in an uncertain future. This trend has gained momentum in the wake of climate reports that put sobering dates on tipping points in climate change. And public figures like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have started discussions about the dangers of raising a new generation in a world that could be irreparably destroyed by climate change. Now some news that is obvious, but people still need to be reminded about. A new study has found that not only is 100% renewable energy by 2050 feasible with our current technology, but it will be even less expensive than the current energy system. This study, done by Energy Watch Group and LET University in Finland over the course of 4.5 years, found that 100% renewable energy by 2050 is feasible without nuclear power and carbon capture solutions. This is extremely exciting because, unlike other studies, it doesn't rely on technology increasing in the future. With our current technology, the system will be cheaper and will create millions of new jobs. There's simply no logical argument against the goals of the Paris Climate Accords. Now some good news about some bad news. Scientists have now pinpointed the source of new rogue emissions of CFC-11, a component that has a large impact on the destruction of the ozone layer. For years, the emissions of CFC-11 have been declining. Then, last year, it was discovered that the emissions have recently began rising. This is quite alarming, as a problem with the ozone layer was largely seen as an international victory and on the course to being solved. This recent uptake is also important because CFC-11 is about 5,000 times as potent as carbon dioxide, so every bit released has a large impact. According to a study published in Nature, the culprit is Eastern China, and they are responsible for about 60% of the emissions. China has responded, saying that they plan on cracking down on the source of the emissions and that they are dedicated to the Montreal Protocol. It's important to hold China accountable at a time like this and make sure that they follow their commitments. Finally, a bit of a reality check. Scientists have underestimated the extent to which sea levels will rise in decades to come. Sea levels are expected to rise as much as 2 meters by 2100, potentially displacing 200 million people and endangering coastal communities around the world. This unpredicted sea level increase, based on new and more reliable data, is more than double the prediction made in 2013 by UN-sponsored researchers. Changes in sea levels are expected to be sudden and drastic as large portions of the polar ice sheets become detached and subsequently melt. This will leave little time for low elevation and coastal cities to prepare. The situation will be especially dire for Pacific and Southeast Asian communities that are already feeling the effects of melting ice caps and lack the resources to protect their communities. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Ecocentric, where we post daily about environmental news and education. Well, that's all for me, and that's it to save the world. See you next week. So yeah, this is the studio. Here you got Noah Klein. This changes everything. Capitalism versus Climate. Very good book. One of the best books I've ever read. Highly recommend to check it out. Then you got The Age of Genius. Hey, what can I say? I like seeing how successful other people are. You got Doctor Strange. We're living in pretty strange times. You got a Bakugan. You open his mouth. There you go. 530G. Wow. You got a turtle from Italy. You got a frog from your backyard. And yeah, this is not hung up yet because it's not a priority, honestly. It'll be hung up later, I guess, maybe. But yeah, this is the studio. This is where we're recording most of the videos, unless they're recorded outside or something. Hope you like it. Oh yeah, video about Pete Buttigieg probably coming tomorrow.